actual work time.
Absolutely. I'm just going to open up the slides again.
Okay, yeah.
And there we are.
All right. Well,
cool.
Welcome to the recorded session of BootUp Curriculum Sampler, Code a Vocabulary Word. And I'm here today with my colleague, Laurie.
Welcome, everyone. Yourself? Yes, Laurie Green, also known as Mrs. Geeky because it's chic to be geek. I've been an educator for 30 years and most of that time as a tech coordinator, and glad to be here to do this session.
And I'm excited to be working with Laurie. My name is Melody Hagaman, and I am also a facilitator at BootUp. I've worked in the high school, middle school, and elementary school computer science space. And I'm really passionate about integrating into other content areas. So that's where this lesson was born. And welcome to anyone just joining us. If you want to tell us in the chat, I'll go ahead and share the slides again, because we do have a person. You want to tell us your name and your role. And we're just...
And I just went ahead and dropped that in the...
Thank you. Yep. Synchronized link dropping. There we go.
Yes.
Okay, so these are the standards. We shared the slideshow with you, so we're not going to read them to you, but just so you can reference them. And for those who are watching this video, I'll go ahead and post a shortened URL at the end so you can access the slideshow. But we're hitting not only on technology standards, but also on Common Core state standards for English language arts. So I think this is still my part. Yes. Our objectives today, we're going to focus on these last two, really, where we're building computer science skills through an integrated language arts lesson, and you'll be creating an interactive vocabulary digital artifact. All right.
Okay. And
guiding questions really are, how can we use a concentrated professional development experience? How can that lead to computer science for all students? I know we focused a lot on equity and student identity within STEM. Heard about that already today. And how can we use algorithms to animate content-focused vocabulary words using letter sprites?
And with that said, with that said, to get this going, actually, we're going to ask you to write a word down that is your favorite vocabulary word to teach students. And for me, it's onomatopoeia. Melody, you have?
Pulchritudinous.
So just take a minute to write down one of your favorite vocabulary words that you might want to teach your students. Okay. And going on to the next slide then. I think it's just us here. Is that correct?
We do have another person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to share?
Flemister.
Maybe you could drop in the chat your favorite vocabulary word.
And Lynn, you can share yours if you'd like. Do you have a favorite word? All right, well, moving on.
Yes. So what does your favorite vocabulary word have to do with this workshop? Well, let's go ahead and show you some examples of how this might play out. We're going to use Scratch to make vocabulary words come alive while teaching coding skills at the same time. And Melody, you want to show the two examples?
Yes. Oh, and Lynn's favorite word is persnickety. That's such a good one. Okay. Oops, I should not have done that. Spoiler alert, there's code in there. You can be persnickety. All right. So I'm going to click the green flag.
And I'm not sure if we're hearing the...
Is it not sharing sound?
Correct.
Okay, but I'll pretend. Are you ready? It's going to be great. Okay. Click the letters to learn more about this word.
You do that well.
Yeah. That one just nods. Yes. Agreed. Check. Meow. Verify. Very exciting.
All different words that mean confirm or motions.
Mm-hmm. And Laurie, you want to tell a little bit about this one?
Yep. So spooky house here. So this one, I love onomatopoeia because it's just such a curious word, and it means, you know, a sound like burp or, you know, gulch or whatever. It could mean eek. And so in this particular example that I did, and in fact, yeah, so when you click on the E and the K, it'll make different sounds, kind of illustrating what an onomatopoeia is. And then a song by Todd Rundgren comes on called Onomatopoeia, Every Time I See Ya. So we also work in a little bit of music there, and it's a fun song to teach onomatopoeias. And you know, we can drop the link to both of these or put them at the end. I can drop the links in now too, in case somebody wants to look at those.
Yes, and you will have sound on your own. I was not going to try and imitate the sound effects on there. I guess I could have done like, that's a door opening.
There you go. All right, so those are the links to the two activities.
Okay.
So before we, to get started, we're going to use Scratch to create this. And I'm going to put the link in here for Scratch. Let me go back here. You do not need an account to do this as you're doing this particular presentation here or this workshop. If you go to Scratch, you can see there's the word create. You don't even need to log in. And Melody, if you want to click on that word create for me, and you can go ahead and create your project in a few minutes. You can also log in. If you happen to have an account, go ahead and log in, but not required for purposes of this workshop. Before we get started, I just wanted to give a quick tour of Scratch. Over on the left side, you have categories. So once you click on Create, you're going to look down the left side, and actually I'm putting it on here as well. And you see motion, looks, sound, events, control, sensing, operators, variables, and my blocks. Each one of those have a specific color. And when you click on those categories, you will see lines of code that are written in a block format. So each one of those blocks has a line of code that a student or you can drag out into the work area to start to create an algorithm. And that algorithm is going to tell a sprite what to do, which we'll talk about in a minute. So left side are the categories, and within each category are lines of code that relate to that category. If we move over to the right side of the screen, you're going to see the infamous Scratch cat. So that's a sprite. Sprites are the different visuals that you have that are going into your project, the different characters, if you will. The examples that we gave you were letters. They weren't an object. So in a moment, we're going to show you how to add those letters and how to delete Scratch cat. So just going left to right, we have our categories and we have our code. We have the programming area or coding area in the middle. Over where Scratch cat is, that's our stage. We can kind of test and see how things are going. Below Scratch cat is where we add our sprites. And between, just as a reference, between Scratch cat and where we add our sprites is a little dialog box. So for each sprite, we can make some adjustments as we go on. So just a quick little tour. There's a lot more to Scratch, but this is a nice overview for this project. Okay, so what we would want you to do now, you have your word. you have seen an overview of Scratch. So the next thing we need to do is to add our letters for our word. So to get rid of Scratch Cat, you're going to go ahead and click on the X that is located in its icon. There's a little trash can, click on the X. And now we want to add a word. And Melody, what word should we do today? Onomatopoeia is too long.
Equity.
Equity. Perfect. Okay. So where we saw Scratch Cat in that little sprite area, in the lower right corner, you're going to see a round little picture of a cat with a plus. And when you click on that plus, there are 4 choices. We're concerned with the first choice now, which is looks like a looking glass or magnifying glass. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And voila, you see a plethora, another one of my favorite words, of different sprites. So you can scroll and look at all of them, but if you look to the up in the top there, it will say search, so you can search for something, but you also see to the right of the search that there are different categories. For purposes of our workshop today, we'll go ahead and go all the way to the right and select letters. And you're going to see that there's 3 sets of fonts if you scroll down. So you have kind of the orange one with kind of this funky shadowing. You have the green ones, and then another set of fonts down below. So what we'll do is add 1 letter at a time. And once you find that letter, and I know Melody, you've got the E there, you just click on it, and it will add it to your stage there. So let's get the rest of our letters by doing that same algorithm or procedure. Clicking on add a sprite with the magnifying glass, and we'll go over to letters and find, and you can mix them up. You don't have to use the same font. You could pick some from that second or third sets of fonts there. So EQ, and we'll add the U. And if you notice, Melody is clicking and dragging her sprites where she would like them. So if it throws the sprite into your stage there and it's not quite where you'd like it, you can just click on it and move it. And you can also in the search type the letter as well if you don't want to keep going over to letters. And one more. Excuse me. So now we have our word. And if you remember in our example, each letter had a sound. And I'm going to let Melody take it from here on how we add some sounds.
Yes. Well, the first thing that we will have you do, and this is something that we would do with students, is actually plan out our sounds.
Yes.
So we have a storyboard, and I'm going to put this link in the chat as well. And again, it's in the presenter notes for the presentation, the slideshow that we're sharing with you. So it does force make a copy. And so this is a great tool for having students actually plan out what they are going to do before they dive in and do it, and then spend 30 minutes trying to find the perfect sound for their first letter. So once you have made a copy of that, then what you are going to do, and we'll kind of expedite this today, but we'll give you a few minutes, is you'll put your letters, okay, and if you do this with students, you can print it out, you can make additional copies. So I'm putting a letter in each box where it says letter sprite. Equity. Oh my gosh, how perfect is that we had exactly enough. It's like I planned it or something, and I actually didn't. And then the sounds. So we're going to show you how to record sounds. And that means that the sky is the limit. Like you really can incorporate any sound. So let me refer back to this slide where, thank you, where you can take this in any direction that you want, depending on what content area or what kind of vocabulary you want your students to focus on. So I've seen teachers do this where they had students write an acrostic poem. And so each letter was a line of the poem that started with that particular letter. The example that we showed you first with confirm used synonyms. If you're studying antonyms, you could do that. For younger grades, I've seen where they wrote like barn, and each letter was a different barn animal. So understanding related words. Or you could put different definitions in there if a word has a lot of definitions. So you're going to plan out each letter, what you want to put in there, whether it's a synonym. And this could probably take us quite a while. So our goal will be to get maybe a couple letters done. I am going to off screen look up some synonyms for my own thing and let you all finish your storyboard.
And I think we mentioned it, but there are lots of pre-recorded sounds available in Scratch that you could put in there as well for your sounds.
Yes, so if you're familiar with Scratch, you could also put in some pre-recorded sounds, and we can show you how to do both. Ooh, I should put integrity for the I. And I know we do have a couple people in our session. So let me know when you've planned out sounds for at least 2 of your letters. I know in another session we did, one of the teachers said, "Oh, thank you. I'm expanding my vocabulary today." Learning synonyms I didn't even know existed.
That's right. And I do like the storyboard. It helps kids to, stay focused because there's so many fun things you can do in Scratch.
Yes. Oh. All right. And I know we have people coming in and out. So for those who just joined us, we're going to drop a copy of this in the chat. This is a storyboard that we're doing, or you should still be able to access it, right?
Yeah.
And we are just planning out some sounds to go with each of our letters of a vocabulary word that we've been working on. Ours is equity. Yours can be whatever your favorite word is. So now that you, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm able to share now if you need me to share anything.
Oh, okay. I'll let you take over because I think I'm on the recording portion. Okay. Oh, I wanted to point out on the storyboard, you could take this even further. So today we are just having our letters play sounds. However, in our examples, and Laurie, could you put those examples back in the chat just for...
I sure can.
Thank you. So in our examples, not only did they play a sound or a recording, but they also might have moved or changed color or had some other effects happening. So that's what those other code notes would be for students to plan out before they code their entire project. And like I said, spend 30 minutes picking one sound and another 20 minutes trying to get the color right on one letter. Okay, so we're going to do a demonstration of how to record sounds, and then it's your turn to do it. So on Scratch, you have your letters already. And where in our categories do you think we would find a code block that would help us play a sound? This is always students' favorite question because it's the most obvious, I think, and that's the sound category. Okay, you'll notice there are several blocks in here. We could do either of the two ones. They're pretty self-explanatory. This play sound until done block is going to do something until that sound is finished, and it will not go on to the next block of code until it's done. This start sound will start it and then continue to read through the algorithm. So I'm going to do the start sound block, and I'm zooming in just so you all can see. Now, for E, for my equity, I don't want it to play a meow. You can see on here it says start sound meow. I wanted it to say fairness. Okay, so what you can do in the block is there's a drop-down menu and there's an option to record. So that's what I'll do. Sometimes if you shared your audio with programs like Hopin or Zoom, Scratch might not let you use your microphone, but you could totally do this when you're off of those applications. So let's see if it works for me. Seems like it's going to work. Okay. Record. Oops. Equity. Okay. Can you all still hear me? Could you hear that process?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great. Thank you. It did something really weird in my headphones. So I was like, it might be taking over. Okay. So you'll notice when you finish that recording that you're now in a different tab. Okay, this was your code tab and it took you over to sounds. And this is where you have all your different sound options in there. If I wanted to get rid of meow, I could click this X, but I might want to use it later. So I'm just gonna, and I can sample this. Sounds good to me. It said equity. So I can go back to my code and select recording 1. And the way that you can test your code blocks is actually clicking on them in the coding area. And it worked, I promise. You just can't hear. Equity. Okay. So I'm going to go through and do the Q. Let me see what my word was. And feel free to watch me do that again, or you are welcome to proceed with recording all your sounds for all of your letters. And of course, let us know in the chat or in the Q&A if you have any questions. Okay, so if I want to move from my E to my Q, down here, I need to click on the Q, and you'll see it will highlight. Oh, thank you, Lynn. Okay, I'm going to unplug my headphones. If there's a scary echo, it's fine.
I cannot hear you now. You might need to unplug them in the back. Or where they're. Oh. It says you're muted. So maybe. Oh, okay. I can go ahead and take over from there. Sure. Let me share my screen. And if it comes back, can you send me the link to your project real quick in the chat? And then I can just pull it up over here. Thank you. Awesome. I will go ahead and share. And can you see my screen? Oh, good. Because from where I'm looking at it, I don't see it, but I see it over here. Great. I'm going to go back to see inside. And as Melody said, we are going to practice recording the rest of the sounds for each of our letters. And if you're comfortable going ahead and doing that, continue on. If you want to watch us do it one more time, I'm going to go ahead down here where all the sprites are that make up the word equity. I'm going to click on Q. And again, we're going to come over to that category called sound. And I am going to bring this line of code out, start sound meow. And we don't really want to use meow for that. And I think, Melody, the word you had for Q on your planner was?
Justice. Can you hear me?
Yes. So
awesome.
Q, awesome. So Q would be justice. Cool. So yeah, we don't want meow. Let's see. So I'm going to go to record.
I don't see your screen though.
Oh,
yeah. Share it again. I might have kicked you off by
that's
rejoining.
Okay. It's all good. Let's see. Do you see it now?
No.
Oh, let's try one more time. Share. Okay. Well, let me close this out a minute. And
maybe I need to take back over.
Yeah, that is so weird. Let me try one more time here.
And we have people here today. Yay.
Yay. Share. Not seeing it?
I'm not.
Okay,
I'll go ahead and share.
Okay.
We've got plan A, plan B, plan C. Okay, let me go back to see inside. So we were going to do this for Q. Go and drag that sound block. I like the start sound. That's just a personal preference for now. Click on the drop-down menu, record. Justice! You'll notice that I am trimming by dragging this just so that there's not awkward silence at the beginning. You don't have to do that. When you click save, it puts it in your sounds menu, and now it's an option if you go back to code. You can drag that down. And when you click on it, it says, Justice! All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that for a couple more of your letters.
And we can name those sounds that we record when they show up in the menu.
Yes, we can go back to sounds. And you'll see that the default sound for your sprite, if there is one, will already have a name in there. And where it says recording 1, you can change that text to say a description of what it actually is, which can be helpful if you have a lot of different recordings. So thank you for that best practice, Laurie. I'm going to do that here.
I just know eventually I have sound 1, sound 2, sound 3, and then I can't remember, or audio 1, which one is which.
So those of you that might have joined after our introduction, this is a project that is a riff on like animate your name, where students are animating a vocabulary word and then choosing sounds to play when each letter is clicked that say something about the word. So the options that we discussed previously were synonyms if you're in an ELA classroom, or even a like other content area if there are plenty of synonyms, writing an acrostic poem, antonyms if you're studying that. They could be related sounds or just phonetic sounds. I saw a teacher do a project where they made the phonetic sounds of each letter for students so they could click on that and start learning how to read the word. Or definitions, multiple definitions. All right. And these are some screen grabs of how to do the recording. So let us know in the chat if you've had enough time to record for at least one of your letters. If you're coding along. You can also let us know if you need more time. That's helpful too. Thank you. Your words are fairness, justice, unity, rights, truth, value. Are you also coding equity, Lynn? It's a perfect word for this summit. And it's nice and short. Where was I? There, right there. Fantastic. Okay. So, Laurie, you want to head this discussion?
Yes, so how do we get our recordings to play when we click on the sprites? Well, one way that Melody showed is that we can click on that line of code like she does here, and we're going to hear what that line of code does. But we really want it to happen when we click on the letter. And sprites, like a lot of things, you need to tell, well, let me backpedal. My famous phrase is a computer only does what you tell it to do. A sprite will only do what you tell it to do. Right now it says start sound fairness, but we're not telling it when to start the sound. And that's where our events comes in, our event handlers. Any algorithm needs to know when it needs to be executed. You've got this beautiful algorithm written. You're like, okay, if I'm pretending I'm that sprite, I'm the letter E. When do I get to say my word? Well, I have to know when to say my word. So let's click over to events, to the category of events. And just like sounds, we have a lot of different choices. We can say, hey, I want you to say that sound when we click on the green flag. But below there, we have maybe when the space key is pressed, or in this case, when this sprite is clicked. So for purposes of this activity, we're going to go ahead and bring out that line of code that says when this sprite is clicked, then you're going to play that sound. And they lock in together like pieces of a puzzle. So now we have an algorithm that says, hey, when letter E, you're clicked, you're going to play this sound. And now it knows when it should do its algorithm.
Equity. Equity.
Oh, I can hear it. That's awesome.
That was me making this sound. But...
Oh, that was pretty good because I spot right into that. And you'll want to do, yep. And then if you look down in the panel where your sprites are, let's say I go to the letter Q, I will want to add that same code again. I need something to tell that line of code or that algorithm when it should begin or when it will do its thing. So for purposes of this activity, we'll do when this sprite is clicked. So it makes it very interactive. A student can click on E and then Q and then U and hear the different responses.
Justice. Justice.
Yes. So I'm going to give you a moment to add that. And then as a bonus, because I see we do have time, we can even add something to change how it appears. Do you think, Melody, we have a couple minutes to do that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I saw something, let's see. Yeah, so if you finish early or you're curious about even doing more, you can go over to, let me come back over here, to looks, but I want you to make sure you get your event handlers in there first. And if you're done, go over to that category looks, and you're going to see some different things like change size, change color. I would encourage you to experiment with those, see what they do, and add that to the algorithm that you've created for that particular sprite or that letter. And so we'll give you a couple minutes to work on yours. And please drop any questions that you have in the chat, or if you're able to unmute, we'd be happy to answer them. And you can see if you need to, or see another example, Melody is dragging lines of code out there for her letters. We'll give you a couple more minutes to to work on your letters. Even if you don't finish this before we go, this is good practice. Our goals were to show you event handlers, how to add sprites, how to record. And anyone have any questions or anything we can help you with?
I love doing this sprite by sprite and task by task because it is such a great example of decomposition, that
Mhm.
computational thinking skill, where students really do have to focus on one sprite at a time or one thing for all sprites at a time.
Yes.
We got all our sounds out, we got our event handler, and now you're adding those looks blocks if you are up for it. And I guess that's a
So
little spoiler for your next discussion, Laurie.
no, it's all good because one of the things about integrating coding into the curriculum and using it even as a tool for something, in this case, vocabulary words, is that there are a lot of things that happen organically. And just like right there, it lends itself to talking about computational thinking. You have algorithms, and as Melody mentioned, the decomposition and perseverance, getting to get it to work the way that you would like. And the computer science skills also are right there. And as this slide says, in the context of the vocabulary lessons, without even realizing this, which ones did we use? What do you think about this experience? But we did, we used computational thinking and computer science skills without even realizing it, which is the real perk. Looking at this lesson and kind of thinking back to what you've become familiar with during this workshop, how might you be able to use lessons like this in your classroom? Can you think of something you're doing now or something along this line would work with your curriculum that you could integrate? A variation on a theme. I think even recording in different languages and doing vocabulary words that way would be a great application. Beginning letter sounds. And whenever children record their voices, they have so much more ownership or feel ownership on that project and more connected to it. So I really do like that recording feature. Lynn said, looking at this being like a 3-part kind of lesson. Oh, hi, Tim. Welcome back. And I'm glad you love the idea. It gives it's a great framework that you can bounce off of. And like I said, do a variation on a theme and something else you might be doing in your classroom. Yes, the recording itself is a whole activity. Yes, learning how to trim it. Maybe you want to re-record, knowing that you have the ability to do that. Thinking about even writing that, if you happen to have an activity where you're actually saying a sentence or doing a description you're recording, working on writing out that sentence first and thinking about what you want the user to hear and how you want to present that. Yes, this could be used with Makey Makey. Yes, it could. Absolutely.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be. And incorporating different languages to promote identity in the computer science class. Very good point, Lynn. Absolutely.
I really love that. Coming from a straight up computer science background to start with, I did a lot of activities where students got to share information about themselves or each other, and that could be a wonderful way to. I've even had students make a ship name. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but like Benifer or what are some other Bradgelina, some celebrity ones. So they came up with their own ship name, and then they could use different things about them that they have in common when the letters are clicked for building those relationships in the CS classroom.
And what I love about Scratch is whenever you have that blank slate, you have no ceiling, no basement, and no walls. And so students can start wherever they are in their continuum of learning and scaffold off of that. So this is such a welcoming software and getting them wherever they are introduced to computer science, computational thinking, and then scaffolding from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's share some resources.
Yes.
We are from BootUp PD, which is a nonprofit that specializes in elementary school computer science professional development and also district support and model teaching. So we have a free curriculum for both Scratch, which is for grades 3+, as well as for even transitional or pre-kindergarten through about second grade with Scratch Junior. And those are all available on our website. Again, these are in the slides, but we'll also put them in the chat.
I just
Yeah,
dropped them in
Laurie
the
just
chat.
did.
Yep.
Great, great
Yep,
minds.
Think alike, yes.
And they're very extensive lessons. So for example, if I pull up the Scratch Junior, you've got the digital, the web-based lesson plan broken down by different tabs, but there's also a Google Doc for customization. They all come with a project preview of what it could look like, but they're very focused on project-based learning and student choice. So the lesson that we did today is based on one called Animate Your Name, where students animate their names and make them do cool things with when you click on the sprites, but just tweaked to fit into content. And that's one of the things that we spend time doing with teachers in our professional development, is planning how to make a lesson fit into what they're already teaching, so that it's not just an extra something that you have to do. And it also shows students that computer science is more than just animations and games. It fits in every content area that they could possibly imagine. We also have a partnership with Amazon Future Engineer. And so they sponsor several districts every year through a 1 to 3 year cycle, depending on the district's needs, for the professional development, the model lessons, and then the 3+ teachers also get microbits, and we do some training with that as well. And there are additional perks, like teachers can apply for the Amazon Future Engineer grant.
Really cool shirt.
Really, yeah, lots of swag. There's access to virtual field trips, and then students who have participated in Amazon Future Engineer are able to apply for the Amazon Future Engineer Scholarship, which is, I think, $40,000. And I got to see Dallas high school students receive one, and they give out like 255 of them every year or something. It's a pretty generous amount. And they get a free internship or a paid internship after their first year of college. So our free curriculum is linked here. It's not linked here. We also, I love this. This is our newest, coolest thing, in my opinion, is For Girls by Girls. And this is a showcase of different role models, near peer and a little bit older, who are doing amazing things in computer science, so that you have a gallery of, like I said, role models to share with students. And it continues to grow. And we continue to add more and more diverse students here. So there's college students, high school students, elementary. And as we know, if you share this with girls, it can make a huge impact in them developing an identity and seeing themselves as computer scientists. And it doesn't hurt boys to share with them either, because they already feel like they can code or identify as computer scientists. So check it out. It's really neat. There's videos included. It's hosted by these two amazing young women. And it's just a lot of fun and a great resource. And Scratch Encore is another non-BootUp curriculum and resource for lots of great Scratch stuff. Laurie, you want to say anything about that?
Oh yeah, it's another great, like she said, a great resource of lesson plans and ideas. And this was a nonprofit, I think it was done on a grant actually. And some of our friends over at Chicago Public School were very instrumental in developing this. So another location for ideas. And they do ask you to sign up, but it's simply for kind of keeping track of how their program is going. It's not that they're going to send you anything or this and that. It's just so they're getting statistics on how this grant is played out.
So I think that's time. Thank you all so much for being here. It was a lot of fun, and thank you on those watching the recording.
Yes, and
Feel
I'm going to
free.
go ahead and put my handle for Twitter in there. I just went over 1,000, so I'm just encouraging everyone else to follow me. So, and you can also reach out to myself or Melody if you have any questions.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And this is me on Twitter. All right. Take care.
Yep.
Okay, Lynn, are we good to hop to the next thing? All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye,
Have
Laurie.
fun.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.